Well, it is round two, the second weekend of the Six Nations Championship 2017. We are discussing today's match and yesterday's two matches. Let's start off with France versus Scotland, Stephen. What was your take on today's game?
Well, from a French perspective, it was a win at home, the first win of the campaign. So they'll be very happy with that. I don't think they'll be happy with the way that they performed overall. They were very dominant in the forwards. Their scrum was insane. They got a lot of penalties from Scotland as a result of that. But I think that they'll be happy with the result, but there'll be a lot of things for them to work on.
What did Scotland carry over from last week, do you think?
Their ability to score tries. Certainly. Stuart Hogg scored a really good try on his 50th appearance for Scotland. And then Tim Swinson, sort of against a run of play, scored a really good try in the second half after Tommy Seymour regathered his chip ahead, and it was a wicked bounce. But the amount of work that Swinson did to work his way up into a supporting run was really impressive, and the second row went under the sticks. Unfortunately, what they also carried over was their indiscipline, and the amount of penalties that they gave away was probably unacceptable, and certainly the Vern Cotter will be very unhappy about that, because it ultimately cost them the game. And yeah, their weakness in the scrum especially contributed to that.
Yes, and does France now have a shot of winning the title?
Mathematically, yes. I think still they need to rely on England sort of slipping up in the last round. I wouldn't say, on the basis of the performances that they've shown, I wouldn't say that I would say that Ireland certainly have the beating of them in Dublin in 2 weeks' time, and I think Wales might fancy their chances, because there's a lot of areas of the French game that can be exploited. Having said that, at times they looked quite strong in attack, so you never know with a French team. But I think the trip to Dublin will and the result that follows that will ultimately determine whether they have any chance.
Italy versus Ireland. So talk us through this apparently one-sided game.
It was more than apparent. Yeah, it was a very one-sided game, and obviously, if you're an Irish fan, very, very positive. Very, it was just the sort of performance that they would have wanted. After last weekend's defeat to Scotland, they were completely dominant. They'd won the game within the first 20 minutes. CJ Stander got a hat-trick. Craig Gilroy got a hat-trick. Very, very good for Ireland. But again, you don't know how representative that is, because Italy were so poor.
What words will Conor O'Shea have for his squad ahead of the remainder of this championship?
Well, Italy really lacked in the basics in almost all the categories or the facets of the game yesterday. I think they just need to go back to a proper structure, an organisation in attack and in defence, but specifically in defence, because they were cut loose more than one occasion by Ireland, and again against Wales last weekend you saw exactly the same thing. So they're a bit naive in defence. They need to get around the corners quickly. They need to spread out when they need to, and then focus on attack, and then focus on winning games. Once you have a structure, it's a lot easier, but right now they don't have any structure, they don't have any organisation, and they're really struggling to even score tries, let alone compete.
And Ireland are back on form, as you say. What prospects do you think they have going forward in this championship?
Well, they've already missed out on the Grand Slam and the Triple Crown thanks to last weekend's defeat. So they'll be aiming for the title and hope that they arrive back home on the final weekend in Dublin when they play England, that they have a chance of winning the title. So that means that they have to beat France, they have to beat Wales. And they need to somehow keep the same sort of momentum going. That's the only thing that they can hope for now. and if they play like they did yesterday, then they certainly have a chance of doing that.
Okay. And Wales versus England. Talk us through this game.
Well, it was going to build as a really tight encounter, and it certainly lived up to that. It was I suppose it was the tightest one of the three games, even though Scotland got very close. And I think the game today was certainly a bit more competitive. Wales had the beating of England, certainly, from the from the get go, and up until the closing stages, they were constantly ahead. But England, they've now won 16 in a row. 16 games unbeaten, and that's a new record for them, and it just shows that they're a bit like the All Blacks now. Until you put them away finally, they'll always find a way of coming back. And certainly Jonathan Davis's missed touch finder late in the game gave England the chance to attack once more and eventually score the great try by Elliot Daly in the corner. But certainly Wales had the beating of England throughout that game.
So just talk us through this incident that proved decisive in the outcome of the game.
Well, it's fairly simple, and it's interim coach Rob Howley will be sort of tearing his hair out if he hasn't already done so, because Wales had done all the work in defence up until that point to get the turnover. So England were on the rampage. They were behind, obviously, and they were going for the try, going through a series of pick and goes, and they were really hammering away at the line, and Wales defended, admirably, and they eventually won the turnover. So what do you do as soon as you get the ball away? You try and kick it into touch, and then have to defend the line out. Unfortunately, Jonathan Davis was the first receiver, kicked the ball and sliced it somewhat, missed touch, and you've got the England backline of at the time it was Johnny May that came onto the pitch, but it was Mike Brown and Elliot Daly, and they're very elusive runners. So numbers for England and a kind of a dog-legged Welsh defence that weren't really chasing a kick that was going to stay in play really proved their downfall. And Elliot Daly's a fine finisher, so he obviously rounded the Welsh defenders there to score the try. And little things like these, they really do coaches nuts in, because it's quite a simple closing out the game, and he didn't do it, so that obviously has cost Wales a chance at the Grand Slam.
You've mentioned a lot of outstanding performances from various players. Which player stood out for you?
From the Wales-England game, I think Joe Launchbury got the man of the match, but I think perhaps in terms of a back's performance or performer, Owen Farrell kind of stood out to me, not because of what he did per se, but how he arranged the backs around him or outside him. He had a couple of half breaks and some good a good game kicking out of hand. He just knows how to. He carries a bit of confidence with him. So the backs outside him or inside him certainly know exactly what is expected of them. He creates a bit of space around them. The delayed passes, certainly when England are on the front foot, a couple of little delayed passes brings in defenders, opens up the outside line for guys like Joe Launchbury to go in and run off him. And the fact that he can easily switch between 10 and 12 and 13 as well, and he can also kick off the tee. He's an all-round performer, and I think that an England team that doesn't have Farrell in it is clearly lacking it, and he played his part admirably yesterday.